Hi, I'm Stu Kagan. Welcome to Born Scrappy, the podcast for scrap metal exporters and traders. Join me in conversation with some of the most experienced traders and operators that have helped shape this incredible industry. Once a month, I'm going to mix it up a bit for you, and I'm going to bring in a masterclass on a topic that I think will be interesting. In today's episode, we focus on marketing for metal recyclers with Jen Betts. Jen has taken the industry by storm over the last few years, and you can see her on stage at most events you go to. You can also find Jen hosting her podcast, Bets on the Future. Her experience in metals and her passion for marketing are a great combination for our industry, and I always have a great time chatting to her. In this episode, we discuss things like top 3 marketing tips for metal recyclers, how to attract your best hire, how to find new customers, why social media marketing is like eating your vegetables, tips and tricks to take on the big guys, as well as marketing on a global stage. I had a great time recording this with Jen, and I'm excited for you to have a listen. But first, intro. Hey, Jen. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us in the future here in the States.
Well, no, we're in the future. Come on, get it right.
Yes, you guys are.
And by the way, tomorrow is a beautiful day, Jen. The sun is shining, so just to let you know that just prepare for a warm day tomorrow.
That sounds wonderful. I will definitely be prepared
Yeah,
for
be
that.
ready. Jen, we've been chatting for a while, and I love your social media posts and just your general attitude is so refreshing in the industry, and we really I just love seeing what you're up to. So it's been lots of fun. So I thought it'll be great to have you on for our first masterclass on marketing. And I just wanted to maybe let's start with a little bit of background on what you've been up to in the marketing world specifically and promoting things and things like that. So tell us a little bit
Absolutely.
more.
Yes. Well, first of all, thank you for having me on here. I am very excited for the episodes that you've already released. It's been wonderful to listen and to watch them, as well as I'm looking forward to who you've got coming on after me as well. In the marketing world, for what I've been up to, recently I launched Recycled Media. It's a marketing and media company that's specifically for the metals recycling world. It's a tool that will help empower our industry to really help get into this generation's way of marketing online from a business development standpoint, from a recruitment, retainment, talent. It really is set up well to help grow people's businesses.
Yeah, I think that sums it up quite nicely. I've been following what you've been up to, and I absolutely love it. But why is marketing even important? I think it's probably the number one question everybody will be saying. Why is it important in our industry? Surely the people in our town already know who we are.
This question I get rather frequently, which from a historical perspective, the scrap metal industry, the scrap yards have more or less been under the radar for generations, right? And it comes from a
Yeah.
historical standpoint. We can get into the history of how all of the scrap world started, but generally speaking, we've thought that going under the radar has been the best way to do business.
Mm.
But in this world now, you are going to get left behind. You are not going to be in the forefront of the next generation's minds when they come into the workforce and they're in charge of recycling the materials that come out of their facilities, or if they're looking for a new supplier, a new consumer. Just knowing that you're in the industry is not going to be enough. You're going to have to go another step further. You're going to have to get
Mm.
online. You're going to have to get a little bit more active so that you can establish those relationships, get those business leads, as well as what we've always done, which is the phone call, the lunch, the dinner, etc. Right? To make sure that our business is known. We have to go one step further to really match what's happening with the
Mm.
newer generations.
Yeah, and I think making those phone calls it's made so much easier if they already know who you are. So
Yes.
when you phone and they've seen your brand and they know, what you stand for and your values or whatever you're putting across there into social media world, right? It makes it so much easier. Also employment, right? Bringing in people. Doesn't it help there?
Oh, 100%. And I have to give you a shout out, by the way. So this is only our second time that we've ever had a conversation like this. right?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
feel like you're my friend, that I know you, that, I know a little bit about, what you're working on, your life, et cetera. And that's because of the marketing that you've done
Mm,
online, right?
mm.
Like we are halfway across the world from each other. I'm based in California.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
are
I'm in New
not,
Zealand.
obviously.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah, exactly.
Exactly. And so that's key here. So I am already walking into the situation feeling comfortable, knowing who you are. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how can we do business together? Right?
Yeah,
Like that
yeah,
you've already
exactly.
you've already broken down that barrier that most people have to go to a couple lunches, have a few phone calls first. And you've
Mm,
already done that by sharing what you already
yeah.
know out there.
Yeah, I think Jen, I mean, I've got you. I've got my very good friend Michael Goldstein, who I've never actually spoken to, but I think he might be my best friend.
Great.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just through um, our marketing, and marketing now is just kind of, for me, it's just putting my real self out there and
Mhm,
seeing who's interested in it, right?
mhm.
And that's how I look at it, and those are my values, and I have my pillars and the things that I talk about, and it attracts the people that are interested in it. Obviously, Brett and I are quite close as well now. We start communicating, and I think it's exactly the same in business. It's a great analogy you're giving, because if you're in business and you're putting your values out there and you're putting what you stand for and what your company does, it's going to attract the people that are looking for you, or the people that are similar, or want similar things.
And to build on that from your previous question that I kind of dodged, the
Mm,
talent aspect of it. Think about when you are recruiting. Initially, if you're not posting on social media, if you're not marketing online, your culture, you're going to have a harder time from a recruitment and a retainment standpoint.
yeah,
So, by putting out what your company is about, when somebody goes to apply for your position after they found you, they're going to look to see if that culture matches up with some of their values. And if it does, they're
yeah.
more likely to move forward with the interview process, move forward with staying at the company, because what was advertised online is realistic to behind the scenes. And so you're going to get better quality candidates by putting out there what you guys are already doing.
I think a practical way I just thought of now is, if you're wondering why it's important to do any marketing, maybe say to yourself, if I was looking to hire somebody new in the yard and I was up against sod metals, would they come to me or would they go to Sod? Right?
Right.
And to me, it's an obvious answer. Everybody's going to go to Sod. Their culture is amazing. Like, they really look after their people, and their people enjoy coming to work every day. So
Yeah.
if you're asking why should you do marketing, well, I think go and compare yourself to somebody like that, and think if somebody's going to, and it's the exact same for customers. Are the
Mhm.
customers going to come to you, or they're going to go to somebody else that is prevalent on social media or wherever you advise us to be, and actually promoting themselves in a positive light?
People want to do business with people that they like. It just it,
Absolutely.
it's a fact. So if
Yeah.
you are truly putting out your authentic self online, you're going to get customers, suppliers, and potential candidates that are going to align with your own values, because that is going to
Mm.
be what attracts them to your company.
Yeah. And my wife Lisa, who you've met as well, who is loves the marketing world, and ran my previous company with me. She always used to say to us, when we were talking about marketing budget, which is obviously a heated topic, which we'll get into a bit later, for a scrap metal yard. She used to say, you can't sell a secret. And so how are we doing compared to our opposition? Well, people might not be coming to us because they don't know about us. So how are you selling yourself if you're keeping it a secret? So I like that. We stuck that up on our wall at one stage. It was, you can't sell a secret. Get yourself out there, promote yourself as much as you possibly can. Don't be shy to tell people what you stand for.
Absolutely. I had a call the
Mm,
other day that was very interesting. And a lot of the conversation was revolving around marketing, right? Like, how can
mm,
recycled media help this company out? And one of the questions that I brought up was, what are you doing to market online? And their reaction was, we got a new website, we ran all the SEO aspect, and I said, that's great, that's wonderful, but how do you get people there? Is it through
Yeah.
Instagram? Is it Facebook? Is it TikTok? Is it YouTube? Like, how are you getting people to your website? How are they coming to your yard? And that was kind of brushed under the rug of like, oh, we're fine there. We're fine. No big deal. And I went to their Instagram later just because I'm curious. I wanted to see what they were up to, maybe get some ideas as well. 8 posts. The entirety of their account was 8 posts. They were very well
Yeah.
done, I have to say. Very beautiful staged photos, lovely. But 8 posts is not going to get you the right clients, the right suppliers, the right consumers. It's not going to get out there in the marketplace. And so you're leaving a little bit on the table where
Mm.
you're not covering all your bases by making sure that you're also on some of the, I'd say younger platforms, if you will,
Yeah, yeah.
that are out
Well,
there.
we'll talk about platforms shortly, because I do have a list of marketing things I want to delve further into. But we talk about them having 8 posts, and this
Mhm.
is something that we hired marketing people internally. I've dealt with a lot of different marketing people, even doing my own social media posts. Perfection gets in the way of progress. So when you do 8 posts, it tells me, and they're well done, it
They're very
tells
well
me that they are trying to make them perfect. Now,
done. Mhm.
Gary Vee said something very long ago, which was when I was first starting to listen to him. And he said, you should one day look back at your first post and be embarrassed of what you put out there,
Mhm.
right? But be proud that you put it out.
Yes.
So you can't move forward unless you're actually putting things out there. It's not going to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just get things out there, right?
Absolutely. When you go back and look at the first series of videos that I did, ooh, it's a little cringeworthy. And, there's a whole backstory behind why I'm walking on a treadmill. It's because I had a full-time job that I was trying to work these videos in between conference calls and emails. And I just knew I needed to get the content out there. I needed to apply the strategies that worked. It was just a matter of trying to find the time. And realistically, some days, didn't have makeup on. Some days I was a little sweaty because dropped the kids off and, had a workout and didn't get time to shower before the first phone call, right? For work. And yes, I look back and oof, that was a starting point, one could say. Uh,
Yeah,
but now looking at those moments, I'm really truly realizing that there are two different types of people in this world.
mm,
One that will do it, that will just do it, as Nike says.
yeah,
And then there are others that won't,
yeah,
right? And it's scary. It's scary to go out there and put yourself out there, especially in a new format that feels unnatural.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And the hater's gonna hate, right? It's you're gonna get lots of that, but you just keep moving forward, right? Those ones that are hating are the ones that aren't doing, and as long as you can accept that and move forward, you'll be okay.
Yes, and honestly, if you're not ruffling a few feathers, you're probably not trying hard enough.
Well, I tell you what, I opened a metal recycling company in New Zealand 6 years ago, and I wasn't the most liked person here. I upset a very, very stable market with people that were very profitable, and I came and disrupted that. But, as I told lots of people, if they liked me, I wouldn't be doing anything right.
Right?
Yeah,
It-
exactly. So let's get into some more marketing stuff,
All right.
because we could talk probably for days, weeks actually. Can you share with us something relatable? Can you give us a success story of a metal recycling company that has transformed its business through strategic marketing efforts? Right, something that we can relate to, something like that.
So I have to go to two individuals. One, my business partner, Brett Eckert, United Metals. He obviously has been
Yeah,
on your podcast as well, and he
yeah.
has truly grown his company through marketing. His CFO specifically has joked around with him that he knows exactly when Brett started posting more
Mm,
regularly, actually having a strategy and doing it consistently and really going after it and seeing the opportunities that came from it. The other that I have to give a shout out to, we already talked about, was the Sod Metal crew, right?
Yeah.
Sod Metal popped up on my radar earlier this year because they started posting videos and they were on TikTok. Gasp,
Mm.
right? Uh, and and they've been able to take a lot of that content and repurpose it to other websites, including LinkedIn, and it has generated business for them. There's been
Yeah.
opportunities that have come their way because people are aware of this yard that isn't massive, right? They do a decent amount of business, but they're not the largest in their area. And yet, there was an opportunity that came my way. Somebody was looking for a yard in their vicinity to essentially service an industrial account. And because they were online consistently, I was able to give a call to Dan Sod, one of the owners,
Mm.
and say, hey, would this be a good fit for you? He can't track it to any particular video or moment in time, but because I was aware of it, because they made themselves known outside of the Lancaster, PA area, business came their way. And
Yeah.
it wouldn't have
Yeah.
happened without what they were doing on the marketing front.
I mean, those are perfect examples. One, you've got the CFO, right? Your numbers guy, the guy
Yeah.
counting your money, making sure there's
Mhm.
money coming in, who can actually identify the date you started on a platform and started promoting yourself because he's looking at the numbers. He's going, okay, things changed here. What changed
Mhm.
here? Brett got involved in marketing, right? And the other
Mhm.
thing is, I mean, Sard Metals got new industry business, which is what we all desperately want on a daily basis. They
Yes.
got some just because of promoting themselves on social media. I
Mhm.
mean, that's that I think we could stop the episode now. I mean, I think we're done, right?
Right.
That's enough,
That
really.
should sell everyone in this industry on it, and yet
Yeah.
it doesn't.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. So let's understand social media marketing specifically. So what platforms are best for our industry?
So it depends on what your goals and objectives are and who your audience is. And you
Hmm.
can have multiple audiences. So each of the platforms have their own benefits and challenges. And you really do need to understand who your audience is, what you're trying to bring to the table, and how each of those platforms interact. Facebook, for
Hmm.
instance, is really great from a local community standpoint. It really does tend to skew a little bit older in terms of the demographics that are on there. But if you're trying to reach plumbers or electricians or local tradesmen in general, and maybe your local officials,
Hmm.
Facebook typically does a little bit better job in reaching that local community aspect of it. Instagram is going to get a little bit younger of an audience, probably your millennials, maybe some baby boomers, maybe some Gen Zers, occasionally the alphas, as they're creeping up there in age, right? And then you've got a couple other platforms that have some, question marks around them for some, we'll ignore some political reasons, but TikTok, for instance, is actually a really wonderful website from an SEO standpoint. Gen Z uses TikTok as a search engine more than they do Google. So
Wow.
if you want to be found from that generation, you're going to need to get onto TikTok. YouTube Shorts is owned by YouTube, obviously, which is owned by Google. So Google
Hmm.
gives preferential treatment to content that's on YouTube. So if you want to be found via Google reviews, Google ads, Google Maps, posting on YouTube consistently is going to generate a higher return for you. And
Yeah.
then from
Yeah.
a B2B standpoint, LinkedIn. LinkedIn used to be, kind of where you go for a little bit of news, somebody's job update, and that's it. And that is so far from the truth today. Business happens on LinkedIn. There are community groups on LinkedIn. News obviously still happens, but you learn what other people's businesses are on LinkedIn in a little bit more detail. And it's a better
Hmm.
targeted audience for other folks in your industry. The other platforms outside of LinkedIn are really great for marketing outside your industry, right? Like if you're trying to get new suppliers, new customers, et cetera, along those lines, great. But if you want to network with
Hmm.
another scrapyard, LinkedIn is it.
Yeah. There's also LinkedIn Navigator, which I've used as well, which
Yes.
can really help you hone in on specific industries or specific clients that you're looking for. So if
Mhm.
your sales team or buying team is going out there and you're specifically looking for engineering companies or plates and steel cutters, whatever it might be, you can actually identify them on LinkedIn as well with a little bit of you pay for a premium, but if you put it to use, it pays for itself quite quickly.
I have to give a quick shout out, and in addition to LinkedIn Navigator, Seamless.ai is
Cool.
fantastic from a business development standpoint. It has a widget that can install into your web browser, and any website that you go to industrial accounts website, anything along those lines, a little mirror glass will pop up in the upper right hand corner, and you can click on it, and it will tell you, it'll scour LinkedIn, and it will tell you who works at that company, what their contact information is,
Amazing.
and how to get a hold of them. And so it's huge from trying to figure out who's the right person at that account to get a hold of. And these are all tools that are available online from a marketing perspective.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what that Seamless AI?
Yes. Yep. It's
Seamless AI sounds like a great tool. That's
it
amazing.
it's great, but also a little unnerving on sometimes how accurate it can be. But you know what? If you're looking for a group of individuals or a certain person at a company, that's in procurement or sales, it will help you get there.
Yeah. Yeah, and you gave a great summary of the different platforms, but I think also that can be quite daunting. So somebody might say, well, I want all of those markets, right? But I think it's about a strategy. So how do you deal with having a marketing strategy up front?
It is challenging and it's also time consuming. But the way that I
Mm,
look at it is similar to eating your vegetables or working out, right? Whatever you put into this is what you're going to get out of it. So
mm,
if you post once per week, then that's probably going to be your return, right? But if you're consistently posting on a day-to-day basis or maybe even a few times per week, you're going to get more out of it than if you just did it once per week.
mm,
You need to choose which platform you want to start off with, just so it's not so daunting. If you want to start off on LinkedIn or one of the Meta products, which are Facebook or Instagram, you can do that. I personally started off on TikTok because I find the platform is a little bit easier to use from a video creation standpoint. And then I
mm.
repurpose those videos to other platforms. I don't repurpose all of them because they don't necessarily work on all the other platforms, but each of the social media channels that we discussed, they have free scheduling software. So
Right.
before we got on this call, it's Monday. Spoiler alert for behind the scenes magic. And it's the beginning of the week, and I have a rather busy week up ahead. Several meetings, phone calls. Crazy enough, I have to do work, right? But I know that social media is important, and I know that I need to keep the strategy up. So I took about an hour or two this morning out of my day to schedule on all the different platforms to be consistent with my scheduling. So again, spoiler alert, if you're seeing any of my posts on any of the channels this week, it already happened. Like I already scheduled it out,
Right.
but now I can focus on other things in my business that I don't have to worry about on the social media side.
Look, my wife will be super proud of you. She tells me to schedule everything, and I just don't get around to doing it. So every morning is frenetic. I know what my pillars are. I know what I want to talk about. I know what's
Yes.
important to me, but I haven't written it. So often it's just a brain dump in the morning, which I try and then make a little bit more succinct. So it's not a long thing to read. But yeah, mine are done every morning. But I wish I had the actual power to sit down on a Monday and schedule. But it takes me back to the strategy, right? So it's about having that strategy. I don't need to tell you what that strategy is. Every business is going to be different. Somebody might decide to post once a week. They might decide to post once a week on 3 different channels. But it's about actually sitting down. And I think that once you've documented that strategy, immediately things feel that little bit easier. Would
Yes,
you agree with that?
absolutely. So I typically post around 5 topics. What I would recommend to somebody is to sit down and say, what are the 5 topics that are authentic to you, that are part of
Mm.
your core business, what you're trying to get across from a messaging standpoint? And that generally is what I post about. And so if there's 5 topics that are really close to you, that's really only 1 topic per week, right? So if you think about
Yeah.
it, there's 5 days, you're posting Monday through Friday. Ignore the weekend,
Yeah.
focus on
Have a
family,
break.
right? Or
Yeah.
schedule it out. But you've got
Exactly.
5 topics. So then, really, from that perspective, it shouldn't be as daunting to set up that strategy to where, it doesn't always have to fall on Mondays that you talk about what you bring to the table with your business, or on Tuesdays you
Mm.
talk about some sort of news, or on Wednesdays you talk about something from a personal standpoint in your life, right? But if you just keep doing it consistently and getting that messaging out there, that strategy is going to really return tenfold over.
Mm. Yeah, yeah, agreed. So something I've done in the past, and it's quite close to my heart, is how do we take on the bigger players? So when it comes to marketing, what are the tips and tricks, the smaller, newer? You don't have to be newer, you could just be smaller than the huge, large multinationals. How can we compete with them on the marketing front?
For somebody that has worked for publicly traded companies, I used to work for the behemoths. I used to trade scrap
Mm.
metal. I used to manage steel mill programs, raw material programs for several of the large steel mills here based in the United States. The smaller businesses have such an advantage,
I
like
agree.
just such an advantage. The bureaucracy that goes into anything that goes out via those publicly traded or just rather larger organizations, it's not going to be as authentic. It's
Mm.
going to be a lot harder for those large companies to establish those relationships with their customers, with their new clients, with their new suppliers, because do you know how many lawyers every post has to go through
Yeah,
before it
exactly.
goes out there? So from a smaller perspective, this is this is key to crushing it, right? If you want
Yeah.
to crush your competition, your nimble ability to post online incredibly quickly or incredibly authentically is going to be your super advantage compared
Mm.
to what the larger corporations have to go through.
It's the one place that would stick out to me that you have the edge, right? You're not going to beat them with capital equipment, you know, probably not the ability to pay the highest prices either. But where you can is to create content that resonates with your customers.
Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
There is such an ability and a nimbleness that you have as a smaller operator to be able to get out in front of everyone. Something
Mm.
that most people aren't aware of, but probably do participate in. When there is a major event in our industry, like a current event, right? Major companies do not put out a press release, they don't put out anything on their social media channels. That should be your sign to quickly insert yourself into the conversation.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've done recently is I usually try to make a comment or put in my 2 cents on a major news story. For instance, US Steel. I mean, it's a little
Mm.
outdated at this point, and depending on when this airs, we'll see if there's a new owner. But US Steel made an announcement that they were entertaining offers, right? This came out on like a Sunday.
Mm.
I quickly did a 15-second video on it. I green screened. Very simple, easy,
Yep.
and used the appropriate hashtags, tagged the geolocation. That thing took off, right? I got business leads from that one video, right?
Yeah.
Being able to turn around a story quickly from a current event standpoint or from something that's happening in your local community, that's a huge advantage for you because people are going to be searching that news story. And if you're able to provide value or, your 2 cents to the conversation, that's going to generate eyes over to your channel and eyes to your
Mm.
business. And then ultimately it'll bring you leads.
Yeah, it's a really good tip. Get involved in the big ticket items. Get your voice heard. Be seen as a thought leader, and
Hmm.
wherever possible, will definitely get you the edge over your competitors, and especially the larger behemoths, because they can't get involved. There's
No,
too many legals involved. Agreed.
no,
And
way
that and
too
that's
many
the edge.
voices.
And yeah, and I wanted to ask you, how do we differentiate our business, right? So how does a company who comes to you, or tips that you can give them to differentiate themselves from their competitors? What would you say to them?
So when I meet people in person, they have different styles. They have different ways that they speak. They have different ways that they do
Mm,
business. It's all authentic to themselves. And that truly is the starting point for when we talk about what we're going to help our clients with. From a recycled media standpoint, we usually have 1 to 2 meetings that revolve around strategy and getting to know our clients before we put anything out for them. We want to truly understand what differentiates themselves, what they bring to the table, because what I've noticed in business is that there are really unique individuals in our industry. And yet, when you go online, when you go to a conference in person, it's like the same person out there,
mm,
which is not true. And yet, the people that stand out at the conferences are the same people that usually stand out online. And so, those are the individuals when they're in a sea of basically the same individuals, they stand out and they generate business towards themselves. And so
mm,
that's really something that I would encourage people to take a look at themselves. What makes them unique in this industry? What value do you bring that's different from your competitor? And then just start pushing that and start putting it out there, because I don't think you're going to realize how many more people actually can relate to that if you don't put it out there.
mm. Yeah, Lisa always says, when you promote something, you want the reaction of the people reading it to say, that's for people like me,
Yes.
right? So as soon as you're putting out marketing where people answer that, when that's what they think to themselves, so that's resonating. That is them feeling that they want to spend more time with you, get to know you better, do business with you, right? Because as you
Mhm.
said, we want to do business with people we like. So as soon as you can touch on those emotions, and those thoughts, immediately you're talking about doing future business. And business doesn't have to be seen as this transactional thing that nobody, there's no emotions about. I do want to do business with friends and people that I like to spend time with. That's
Yeah.
just a fact. I'm not doing this stuff just to bring in business. I like to meet new people. I can't wait to get to the BIR in October. Like, just to hang out with the people that are commenting on posts or posts that I'm reading. Like, I really do enjoy that. That's what energizes me.
Yes. I was having dinner with some friends of mine in the industry, and they were discussing that they passed on a business opportunity because it involved them having to travel frequently, and they didn't want to miss spending time with their kids. And their kids are around our kids' age; they're kind of towards
Mm,
the younger side of things. And I just kind of sat there a little bit shocked in the moment, because even though I've worked with many families and fathers and mothers in this industry, the frankness of their decision to share that they just weren't going to
mm.
travel, they decided to pivot their business to make sure that they were at home. I immediately said, "Have you put this online? Like, have you shared this?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "No, no, we don't want to share this." I'm like, "Do you know how many other fathers and mothers are out there from a business standpoint, or grandparents, or
Mm,
people that could relate to that, and
yeah.
it
Yeah, exactly.
that could bring business into what they're working on?" And it's just that realization that what makes you unique and stand out could bring you business.
Mm. And it doesn't have to be for everybody. You're
Hmm.
not saying that it's for everybody. You're just looking for those people that resonate with you,
Yes.
the people that think that's for people like me.
Yes.
So what can we implement? What are three things that middle recyclers could implement today to start on their marketing journey?
One, take a look at your website. If it hasn't been updated since at least a 202, you might want to take a
Mm,
look at it, right? the SEO world has changed, it's shifted, and you need to make sure that your website is up to date, because ultimately any of the social media recommendations on 2 and 3 that I'm about to suggest is not going to matter if you don't have a great website to tell them where to go ultimately to do business with
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
The next thing is you're going to have to get online. Like, pick a social media channel. I'd push you to choose them all, and you're going to need to start consistently posting on there, on a variety of them. And then the third, to implement, you need to figure out what you bring to the table, what you're passionate about, because creativity is only going to come out of what you're passionate about. And if you
Mm.
don't have that drive, if you're not passionate about the things that you have told yourself that you're going to post online, it's not going to happen. And it's going to be a struggle, and it's going to be a lot of work. You want to pick things that you like to talk about, that you want to bring
Mm.
to the table, and it'll make that a lot easier when you go to the social media channels to start posting online.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, because we all know, and no one questions the fact that consistency is key.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to strive to be consistent, which you have to be,
Mm-hmm.
don't pick a topic that you think other people will like to read about. Pick a topic that you like to write about, a topic that you want to talk about, something that if somebody comes up to you at a conference and says, wow, that really resonated with me, and gets involved in that conversation, you can talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you pick on something, if I start talking now about, and it's easy for me to just think a sport that I've never played or never heard of, but I know that the people that I'm trying to attract attention from, they love it. When they come up to me at a conference and they start talking about the latest best players, I'm just going to look like a fraud, right? Choose a topic that resonates with you, that you feel passionate about, that it doesn't feel like work when you're writing or talking on social media about it. It's really important.
And those topics are going to show up in your SEO as well,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So if you're putting any posts out there on the different social media channels, and you're constantly linking back to your company's website, or your company's page on LinkedIn, or on the other social media sites, it's going to generate traffic, right?
Mm,
So being able to consistently talk about and have those topics online is really going to help you beat out your competition.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So I've seen a lot of archaic websites in our industry. There was a period where I was making acquisitions here locally, and my favorite thing was to find a website that hadn't been updated in 20 years, and no sort of marketing spend or any social media presence. So I've seen quite a few of those websites. But now we talk about starting to spend money, right? Because there's a lot of it we can bootstrap it and do it very cheaply, which is a talking head video where you're talking and you just post it on social media. That's fine. A couple of bit of content creation, you're writing a few posts on a topic that you like. You can do that all for free. There's no question there. But there comes a time in a business where you need to now start talking about marketing budget. Now, I said earlier in this episode that there was always a heated topic. My wife believes in spending a lot on marketing because she can measure it and make sure that it's bringing back the returns, right? How do you recommend our industry measures that return on investment? And are there any tips that you could give or recommendations you've given in the past for our industry?
So on the marketing budgets and the ROI, it does depend on the particular company. So, and I say that for a variety of reasons. There are some companies that see true value spending a lot of money on conferences, on trade shows, for instance, right? They might be selling equipment or something along those lines. And so going to those trade shows and actually showcasing their product makes sense. There are other companies where spending money on Google Ads, for instance, generate a lot of returns, or maybe they're paying to boost a post on one of the variety of the social media platforms. So each one is going to have different targets. If you are a metal recycling facility, let's use that as an example, and you want to start, beating out your competition in Google results, you should be taking a look at Google Ads and Google reviews. immediately,
Mm.
right? Because those are going to be one of the quickest ways that you're going to be able to pop up in searches. So when somebody says in Google that they have, recycling needs, or they need to find a new service, they can find you that way, right? There's even ways to set it up so that if somebody forgets, their contacts information, and they're like, well, I know it's ABC XYZ recycling, right? And they type that in, you can pay from a marketing perspective to have your company show up as well, right? If you know it's a direct competitor of yours. So
Yep.
it's going to be a little bit challenging to find the one-to-one, this dollar brought in, this dollar back, but you will see it from the amount of phone calls that you get coming in, the amount of clicks that you come into the website, the amount of emails that come, the comments, the inquiries via the direct messaging, and then ultimately the stories that I shared earlier about getting leads from other people in the industry just because they know that you exist and this is what you do. So there are going to be a different variety of strategies, but it really depends on each individual company and what they're trying to achieve, how you can essentially measure the ROI on marketing.
And I think it's important that we do that at least, though. So there's many different ways and different strategies to measure it. But a lot of people in our industry, me included, kind of just jump off a cliff, or okay, we're going to do some marketing now, and then we run with it. And you ask me in 3 months time how it went, I'll probably say, oh, it was brilliant because we got a few phone calls or whatever it might be, or no, it was terrible, nobody even contacted us. But I didn't always use the measurement needed, and I was very lucky to have a partner who did all of that and make sure that everything was documented very carefully so we could track and measure. But so I think the point is that doesn't matter how or what you're necessarily measuring. It's you have to start by measuring, whether it is things like you said, how many emails did I get? What is your call to action, I guess? So if you're marketing and your call to action is email me and you've got an email address, well, at least track how many emails you're getting, what you spent on that, and how much business you brought in from that. And if you're doing that, you can then very quickly decide whether you want to turn that up or turn that down at a later stage.
At Recycled Media, we do this for our clients.
Yeah, I
We
was going
have
to
a
ask.
basis line that we start off with on a variety of different measurements. And then at certain time periods afterwards, we measure what came in, what didn't come in. Do we need to adjust our strategy? And I think a lot of companies think this is the strategy, this is what we should do, and then they just do it for an undetermined amount of time without ever taking a look back to see, is anything actually working? Is one thing working better than the other? Should I focus more energy and time on a different area of my marketing versus this isn't really working, or it's not really bringing in the leads, right, that I need?
Yeah.
And more companies need to just say, okay, every month or every 2 weeks or every quarter, whatever time frame works for you, you just need to say at that time frame we need to assess what happened so that we can
Yeah.
adjust going forward.
Uh, and that's kind of where bringing in the likes of recycle media becomes helpful, because owner operators are often literally putting out fires, right? We're just flat out, and not having the time to do those measurements, and to go there and hire a person is quite daunting as well, because what happens if I want to make changes or I don't want to do that anymore? Being stuck with a full-time person. But bringing on the likes of a recycled media is really helpful because they take that all away from you. And like you say, and I was going to ask, as long as you're reporting on the return on investment, well, your clients can see very quickly whether it's worth using you or not.
Absolutely. Recycled
Mm.
media is really a tool for companies to get educated, right? There are some aspects that we will take over for your business, but there are also some aspects that we are going to encourage employees at the company to do themselves. But we'll be hand-holding, we'll be helping along, but the intent is ultimately at the end of our tenure, we want you to go off into the sunset and continue to skyrocket, right? We are not looking for lifetime customers. We're looking to help educate our client base to the point where they won't need us in a few years. They can move on to the next, and they will be able to find somebody within their company that has a passion for this, that it can be a part of their job, and then they can figure out those tips and tricks, the scheduling that doesn't take up their entire time, that can free up their time to be able to go back to what their main book of business is.
I think it's a really good story to get out there, or point to get out there, because you should be seen more as than a consultant who's
Yeah.
coming in to make sure that you're teaching them or giving them the skills to be able to promote their own business. So it's not daunting. You're not signing a lifetime agreement when you phone Jen. You're not now stuck with Jen forever. It's come in. Jen will work on your strategy, give you tips and tricks, and help train your team. And that's a very, very appealing proposition. So yeah, I really like the fire industry.
And imagine as well from an industry perspective, we are not that great at marketing ourselves. Let's just be upfront. There are some shining stars
Yeah,
like
yeah.
yourself, like the SOD, United Metal, etc. But generally speaking, we're not that great. So we are missing out on top talent. We are missing out on retainment of talent. We're missing out on business opportunities. And also from a legislation standpoint, we don't have that education out there in the marketplace consistently. So recycled media really does take a look at the long-term game here. Imagine if we could train up 100 companies, 200 companies,
Yeah,
etc.
so good.
The impact that it could have on local communities, understanding that you should not be throwing away an aluminum can, right? There's a very big demand for aluminum coming down the pipeline, and we cannot afford that. The economic benefits behind recycling, as well as obviously the environmental standpoint. If we can get up and train X number of companies out there, that's just that many voices that can help educate the masses that just haven't been educated up until this point.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant. That's great for the industry as a whole. Has a kind of a halo effect on the whole industry. So I really like that, and we need to promote that as much as possible. Because Born Scrappy is predominantly for exporters and global trade, as you would have seen the previous people that we usually interview, except for the masterclasses. How do you recommend, or what do you recommend an exporter do to promote themselves globally? Right? We've been talking very much in your community and bringing business in, but as an exporter, you want to make sure you're attracting some of the best, most reputable buyers internationally. What can they do in that way?
I would immediately go to LinkedIn. If I was an international exporter or importer for that matter as well, I would immediately be going to LinkedIn and I would be figuring out who is on there that is also another well-known exporter. The algorithm works in a way that if you start interacting with certain people's posts, you're going to start getting some of their audience to shift over to
Yeah.
your content, right? So if you see an exporter that's out there that is promoting what they're doing, you're going to be able to start noticing who's commenting on there, who's possibly doing business with them, because some people like to post who they do business with, right? And that's
Yeah.
almost an informal vetting process, right? That you know that these people are legit, that they are in the business, and that you can start seeing who are the major players, and you can start networking online before you start obviously sending them messages, setting up phone calls. It's a way to essentially vet who would be the ideal targets in your industry.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you talk about when you talk about the algorithm as well. People that are promoting or creating content on social media, they want your engagement.
Mm-hmm.
They want to hear from you. They want you to comment on their posts. And it helps you as well when you comment on people's posts. So exactly what Jen just said, right? It's commenting and engaging is really important for yourself. When you do that, the algorithm sees that you are prevalent in this discussion or in this on this topic. It then wants to promote you more. It gets your content out even more as well. You become more known, and as soon as the person who created that content also then replies to your comments, it's even better. Always it gives it more juice. It gets it more spread out there. And if that's what you're looking for, and you're looking to promote yourself as much as possible, or do some marketing, or getting your your topics out there, or your thought leadership out there, comment, engage as much as possible. We want to hear from you, right? Hey, Jen, am I right there?
Yes. And one of my favorite comments that I get from people that are relatively new to me in the industry is, I don't know how you showed up in my feed, but, and then it goes into something else. I know
Yeah.
exactly how I showed up in your feed. I know the exact algorithm. I know the exact strategies. I know exactly why I showed up so that I'm in front of steel mill buyers, steel mill CEOs, that I'm in front of the recycling community, essentially, right? I have gotten business out of showing up in other people's feeds, right? And by engaging and getting things started that way. The biggest turning point for me in the mindset for social media and just online marketing in general is social media is not for your friends and family. It's for your dreams, your goals. It's for people to find you. So if you are not putting yourself out there, you're not going to be found. So it's something that really kind of shifted my mindset. I wasn't, my social media might surprise some people, but I wasn't a huge social media person earlier on in my career, right? I'm a pretty private person. You won't always see photos of my kids out there, right? Like I'm a little bit reserved, you may not know that I went to a Jonas Brothers concert recently, right? There are things that I hold back, but in
We now
terms,
know. We now
right,
know, Jen.
now you know.
I'm boasting about it today.
Yes. Don't worry. I'm still trying to figure out how do I come up with a metals video for that. But
Yeah.
right, without putting yourself out there, you're not going to get the business to come back. It's very similar to the physical marketing that we do in person, like the billboards or putting the sign on your truck or handing out a keychain at a high school career fair, something along those lines, right? This is now just doing it online. And you just have to
Jen,
start shifting that mindset.
do you get a lot of DMs? So a lot of people messaging you in your inbox where they're not engaging on your post necessarily, but they will talk to you privately about it?
Oh, absolutely. To the point where I'm looking into help on that front.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
lot, right?
it is a lot. When I started on the video content creation journey, I started off from a business development standpoint. At the beginning of the month, I said to the company that I was working for, here are my metrics. Here's the starting metrics. I'm going to play around on my personal brand to showcase at the end of the month, here's how many, leads came in, here's how many new connections, etc. And at the end of the month, I had more than doubled my connections on LinkedIn. And I looked at every single person's connection that came in, every single person's. And I would say 99% of them were metals related in some
Yeah.
capacity. Because I looked at every single one thinking, how are we going to do business? How can we do business from each other? And that has continued. I don't do a lot of outreach at this point. I very rarely will send somebody a message first. I have cast the net using these videos, and the DMs are what's coming back to me. And so
Yeah.
I don't have to do a lot of outward engagement because it comes back to me and then I can go from there.
So with the DMs as well, I just want to put out there that I get back to all my DMs as well, and it's really important. I get a lot as well, but often it's people that want to say to me they really like my post, or want to ask me certain questions, about the topic that I spoke in the post. What I wanted to say was that people should feel comfortable to comment on those posts, because it's going to benefit them, is what I was trying to say as well, right? So that the DM is one thing, you'll get to me, but if you comment on the post, you'll get to a lot more people. So if you're trying to get some answers, it's great that you come to me, and I hope I can help, and I hope I have helped some people. But if you engage with the actual post, you might actually get other people to help as well. And I don't have all the answers. So hopefully some people hear this and go, okay, well, actually by engaging with the post, I will get Stuart or Jen to respond, but also hopefully others will see that. And like the algorithm we spoke about, it will promote those comments. It will tell more people that you're talking about these sort of topics. And it's a really good tool for marketing, to post on comments, because, or engage in comments, because you don't have to write content in the beginning. That might be where you're feeling a bit nervous. Don't be the content creator in the beginning. Just engage on posts. Start there. Maybe if that's somewhere we want to start, that's a good place to start. Engage.
Absolutely. I've been to a few different conferences recently, and I get that question a lot of, it seems daunting. How do I even start? The commenting on people's posts is a great suggestion. What I've been putting out to people as just a small goal, I'm like, take one photo this entire trip.
Yeah.
Let's take
Yeah,
one
I saw
photo.
that.
You don't even have to be in the photo. Just take a photo of something cool that's happening at that conference and post it online. That's it. That's it. Like, tag the conference, tag your company, tag the other company if you took a photo of a piece of equipment or whatever. Start documenting what you're doing instead of just saying, I'm going to this conference, and then you disappear online, right? Start generating content by just one quick photo, and you would be amazed to the conversations that come back via that, because other people are starting to comment on there.
Exactly right. And engage. When people comment, make sure to engage. Don't just drop a post and go back in 2 weeks' time and go, oh, I actually forgot to reply to all those people. People that are reaching out want to engage, they want to talk to you, they want to hear your opinion. So if you do put that one photo, just make sure to respond to the comments. People are looking for your attention. They're wanting to talk to you.
And let's also clarify on responding to the comments. Not just liking,
Yeah.
loving, whatever. Like, you actually have to hit reply. Hit
Yeah.
reply and then put something. Whether it's an emoji, just like a little thumbs
At
up,
least.
a little recycling logo, something. You have to respond with something for the algorithm to really pick up on that.
And so I was going to say there's two things, right? The algorithm says it's important to respond to your comment. But the other thing is somebody's taken the time out to comment on your post, something about your life. One other person has actually taken the time and said, let me engage with that and tell Jen I really like that photo, or that person that Jen is with in that photo is really special to me, or I wish I was there. Take your time and engage back. Take your time and respond to that, because they're taking their time. And that's how you want to be seen, and that's how you want to market yourself and promote yourself as somebody who's authentic and actually cares about other people as well.
I absolutely agree with that. That's a really great way to look at it, because I see people's posts and then comments and never from the original creator, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like,
It's crazy.
it's just gonna die on the vine. Like, you have
Yeah.
to
And
help it grow.
yeah, exactly right. And I read something the other day which was really quite cool. Somebody was speaking about, I think they were talking about followers, and they were saying they went from 500 followers to 5,000 followers over 6 months, and then they were sitting on like 20,000, and they were saying, just imagine how many people that is when you think of them as actual people. So it's very quick to go, oh, I've got 1,000 people. But just think about what size room 1,000 people fills, right? Some of the conferences have only got 1,000 people in them, right? Most of them have done well to get 1,000 people in them. You've got 1,000 people following you that are actually engaging with your posts, or reading your posts. You've done well. When you start hitting 5,000, when you start hitting 20,000, you're starting to get into stadiums, right? All of a sudden, you're doing better than some people who are putting on concerts, and it's very quick to lose that.
That's a very great way to look at it. And I'm a little bit in awe because, again, I went to a Jonas Brothers concert recently at Dodger Stadium. And I don't know exactly how many seats that stadium fills, but let me tell you, it was filled, right? And then they filled the outfield, right? So to visually put in perspective how many people that is versus how many followers you have or how many connections you have is, I mean, that's a really great way to look at it. And I think it comes from my trading scrap mentality where, I think about numbers dollars per
Mm,
ton, dollars per pound. I very
sure.
rarely ever calculated out what each truckload, what each barge
Yeah, yeah,
actually
you need
was worth
to.
in value. And now you're forcing me to think about the follower number in a physical perspective from a stadium is uh
Yeah.
that's a
Or,
whole new mindset.
well, don't let it delay your posts and get a bit nervous about what you're going to say out there. But that's how you need to look at it and tap yourself on the back and say, you've done well to get this amount of people, and these are people that are. Yeah, and then you look at engagements, right? And you get 1,000 people engaging, or sorry, not engaging, but the LinkedIn posts are getting out to 1,000 people, or you've got 100 people liking. That's 100 people. Put 100 people in the room that like something you're saying. It doesn't happen every day.
No, no, not at
Yeah,
all.
exactly.
Not at all.
Yeah. Jen, we've dealt with most of the marketing questions, and we're probably running out a bit of time. But I want to end with all about you, which we kind of just get to know Jen a little bit. Well, a lot of us see your posts. A lot of us know a little bit about you. We didn't know about the Jonas Brothers. Didn't know about your crush that you had on them. We're learning more about that now. But let's just quickly learn a little bit more about you. Do you have a favorite TV series or movie?
Oh, this has actually been a topic my husband and I have brought up many a times. We live in the golden era of television, and it's somewhat overwhelming in terms of which show are we going to watch. There's been so many recently. I go the full gamut. I'm like Secession all the way
Yeah,
to HGTV.
cool, cool.
Like the full it just depends on the mood. If I need to like zone out, maybe not think about all the business, I want to look at a pretty
Mm.
house, right? But if I want to get motivated and conquer the world, I'm going to Secession.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so you got the full spectrum. Is there any series you're watching at the moment?
This is again, my husband and I were just joking around about this, is that no, because I haven't been home. I've been on
Right,
airplanes
right.
and conferences. So we've got several, like, I don't think I've even finished the last few episodes of The Mandalorian, which is very sad to me.
Okay, got
I
you. So
haven't
that's one
finished.
of your favorites?
Love that. Love Ted Lasso.
Mm.
There's so many great television shows that
Yeah,
are out there
cool.
right now that it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, I remember I was talking to my wife the other day. I remember when I was much younger and you had to wait a week, right? You had to always wait a week, and then you had to be at that specific time in front of the TV. And if you missed that, you didn't get the opportunity to watch it again. Yeah, things are binge watching is a fantastic thing now. When you do get that opportunity, you don't just watch one episode. You can go
No,
four of them, and next
no.
thing it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and yeah, the next day's rough.
uh,
What's your favorite place to visit? You do quite a bit of traveling, especially in the States, but what's your favorite place to visit?
it depends on the continent. I would say in North America, my favorite place is Whistler. My
Mm.
husband and I used to live in Seattle. That's where we met, and so we would go up for winter skiing as well as for summer hiking. It's just stunningly beautiful up there, and a great food scene as well. And then we have very special memories actually in your home country. We went to Cape Town. That's actually where my
Oh,
wedding
cool.
ring is from. Is from Franschhoek out in wine country out there. So we
Wow.
we 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 love traveling around the world. We've started taking our children around the world with us as well, and so we're really passionate about exploring new cultures and new places. So it's
Mm.
somewhat hard to choose a location. I live outside of LA now, and so I got to say this is not a bad place to live
Yeah, yeah.
these days.
Well, Cape Town's amazing. I mean, I grew up in Cape Town and lived until I was 16 years old. My dad still lives in Cape Town. Born and bred there. It's the most beautiful city. Absolutely. So
Yes,
yeah,
stunning.
that's a good place to go. It's the first time I've heard that. But actually, interestingly enough, I interviewed and releasing this week my episode with Michael Pavlovsky from Oryx Stainless, and he owns a wine estate in Franschhoek.
Uh,
So yeah,
that,
yeah,
that sounds
you
like
can imagine how beautiful. Yeah, a
that's
dream.
As Schitt's Creek would say, that's a write-off. That's a wonderful
Yeah,
write-off that he has.
yeah,
that's,
exactly right.
that's the goal right
Um,
there.
I know. It's a good life. What's your favorite book?
I'm currently reading. Let me see if it's. I have to do a little plug here. This has been like
Yeah.
fantastic. Originals by Adam Grant. I I I think you would love it if you haven't already read it. It's How Nonconformists Change the World. And it's basically about the psychology behind the people that do and the people that don't. And it's
Mm.
really quite fascinating. And so I've been recommending it to pretty much anyone that I meet these days.
Yeah, you sent me a little piece out of it the other day. You sent me a picture and you said it reminded you of me.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, I've definitely got to read it. Adam Grant's brilliant. I have read some of his others, but I haven't read that, so I'll definitely get stuck into it. And do you have a favorite quote? I'm guessing spending more time with Brett Eckhardt, you've probably been practicing quite a few. Have you got a favorite one?
That's a good one. Honestly, right now, the quote that I shared a little bit earlier was from Mel Robbins, where the social media is not for your friends and family. It's for you how you want to be found. And that's
Mm,
really been a whole mind shift for me over
mm.
this past year of really putting effort and strategy into that world, and it's come back tenfold.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, Jen, that's been a lot of fun. I think there's been some real gold in the last hour.
I like that
So
metal pun you threw in there.
yeah,
Or
yeah, thank you, thank you.
yes.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Jen. Thanks for being on Born Scrappy. It's been lots of fun.
Stu, I really appreciate it, and I could not appreciate your marketing skills as well online. So, well done.